Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And I know it's been more than a week since my last video. A couple of reasons for that. I've been very busy this week. And also there hasn't been all that much news going on. But just to let you know, we'll be having, is it this weekend? Yeah, this Sunday is going to be the Inappropriate Characters. And I might do another video between today and Sunday as well. So we'll see about that. But today I was going to just do something, a bit of housekeeping, I guess you could say, that I had been remiss with, which is I never did a page through look at Arrows of Indra. I've done one I think I've done one for the Old School Companion. Have I? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have. If I haven't, please let me know in the comments below. And I've done one for Lion and Dragon, and I've done one for Dark Albion. But I didn't get around to doing one for AOI. Now, Arrows of Indra, one thing you need to keep in mind. First of all, let's give you the basics in case you don't know, in case you're not familiar with my product. Arrows of Indra is an OSR game which is made to emulate Indian epic myth, like from the Mahabharata, right? So its setting is essentially epic India. The exact same sense that the setting of Dark Albion is War of the Roses, England, right? Shakespearean War of the Roses, England, maybe you could say, right? And this is, again, the epic India of myth, of the late myth. We're not talking about the kind of prehistoric myths of like the Ramayana and stuff like that. We're talking about the immediately before real recorded history period of the Mahabharata, of the time of of Krishna and the Pandavas and Kurukshetra and all that stuff. If you're familiar with that sort of stuff, the Mahabharata is an epic Indian myth. It's kind of a combination between, like, from the point of view of the Western world, a combination between the Old Testament of the Bible, in terms of its kind of religious significance, and the stories of King Arthur in terms of its, like, storytelling significance. You know, it's a foundational mythic text of the Indian world. So this is an OSR game, so it is compatible with any other OSR game, as in the same sense that they all are. But this is also a game that I did a long time ago. Trying to think of when I did it exactly here. But it was quite a while. It was the copyright is 2012, which means it came out probably in 2013. And this was before there was a 5th edition, before I was hired to do 5th edition. Probably, yeah, just very shortly before I was hired to be a consultant on 5th edition. And so it's well before Dark Albion, which is what I did after 5th edition, and before Cults of Chaos and Lion and Dragon and Star Adventure and the Old School Companion and all the RPG Pundit Presents series. So this is an earlier work, you could say. And as typical, like, you could say this is my second stage of work, because I did a few games before this which were not OSR games. I did my very first game was a kind of roguelike simulator called Forward to Adventure, and I did a source book for it, and then I did a party game that was meant to make fun of story gaming, which is called No Murdered, which is hilarious, by the way. You can still pick it up from Presses Intermedia. And I did Lords of Olympus, which is a diceless game where you play the children of Greek gods, and it's my homage to Amber. But so this is the first OSR product I made that was proper, real OSR, as in a game whose foundational mechanic was the D&D old school rules. Okay. But it is much more of a primitive version, you could say, of what I would eventually end up doing. Like, if you look at the stuff here, the basic system is inspired by AD&D first edition. So you've got a lot of classes, you've got attribute requirements, You have experience points that are not, there's only one experience table. So I managed to, like, that was already an innovation, but it's still large numbers of experience points, not like one experience point per session, which is what my current system is, right? And you've got all these, powers and benefits and things, and it's all it's all quite curious, because it is on the one hand much closer to a pure D&D. It had elements that were absolutely first edition AD&D, taken from the OGL, obviously, the base D20 rules. But then it also had stuff that was the herald of what would eventually be what you'd see in the Lion and Dragon system. Like, there are skills that you roll randomly by caste, right? Just like in Lion and Dragon, you get skills by social class. Then there are also class skills that you can get, which are randomly rolled as well when at the levels where you qualify for them. So this is also kind of a precursor to the level advancement tables that you see in Lion and Dragon, where in Lion and Dragon, you go up in level and you don't get any fixed benefits per level. What you get is you roll twice or pick once on a random table for that class to see what benefits you get at that level. So the seed of that concept was in here, but I hadn't worked it out fully yet, So this is, in one sense, you could say, well, then this is a more primitive type of game. But in another sense, you could say that this is a game that would be appealing to someone who wants a game closer to first edition, with some of the touches that you see in stuff like Lion and Dragon. So the classes are you're kind of the fighter. I just zoomed by them, but you've got the fighter, the wizard. It's called a city. The thief. There's assassins, which are called thuggies, which is a bit anachronistic for the era, but it was a term that people would identify with. You've got the yogis, which are mystics. You got scouts, which are kind of the rangers. So it's the standard like classes, right? The alignment is a place where I started something that ended up becoming important also in Lion and Dragon. So instead of the typical D&D alignments, you've got holy, neutral, and unholy. So alignment here reflects strictly your relationship to the gods, right? Because that's the thing that matters in the Mahabharata, right? Like, you have some guys that are absolutely great, they're absolutely badass, and they are essentially ideal guys, but because they have some problem with the relationship to one or more of the deities, this dooms them. Much like in the Greek myth, right? You see that sort of thing there too, right? So it's that sort of notion. And so alignment if you're playing in a world of epic heroes, that is, not the pre-medieval sort of deal, I think needs to be about, are you on the side of the gods, on the side of demons, or neither? Like, do the gods like you? Do they dislike you? Or are you, are you not noticeable enough to them at all? So this is that's an important point. The magic system here is totally different. There isn't a Vancian magic system. What you get are special powers that are so like the wizards, for example. Cities get knowledge of a couple different things, and they get like some special techniques and mudras, some of which that are on the basic table are kind of the common things that are still known to skilled cities at the time. There's also an advanced table, which you have to access only if you get a result that you already have on the basic one. You get to roll on the advanced one. So that's less well-known powers. And then there's also enlightenment powers, which you have a chance of gaining every time that you go up in level, based on a mechanic to reflect how evolved your character is, right? So there's a chance of gaining a power depending on their ability, right? Other classes get other abilities, including basically weapon specialization. So like a thief might be trained in the Qatar, which is a type of punching dagger, and other knowledges. So you can definitely see the seeds of Lion and Dragon here for sure, right? And the fact that even back at this point, I didn't use a Vancian magic system. In fact, it was maybe more radical in a way than what I did in the Dark Albion book, where I still included tables for, the typical OSR Vancian spells, because I knew that some people would be doing that. And I didn't actually jump in with the full-blown... I had the demonology section in Dark Albion, but I didn't jump in with the full-blown medieval authentic magic until Lion and Dragon. Of course, also part of the reason was because it was going to occupy a big section, as it does occupy a big section of Lion and Dragon. But anyways, so you've got, just like Lion and Dragon is medieval authentic, this attempts as much as possible to be, let's say, Indian epic authentic. And so you have armor types and weapons that are meant to be reflective of the sort of things that were used at the time, and lots of culture notes, just like in Lion and Dragon and Dark Albion. A big part of the game is to actually try to fit the authentic culture of the setting. And so obviously you might say, well, some people are going to be a lot more used to, medieval culture than to Indian culture. That's actually not true. We know for a fact, I've made many videos about this, what people imagine as medieval culture is really like Hollywood movie medieval fun time culture, which has nothing to do with what medieval culture was really like, which is why in Dark Albion and in Lion and Dragon, I have big sections on how you're supposed to behave, on like the sumptuary laws of what you're allowed to dress or not, the criminal laws of, what things are a crime to what type of class of person, what are clerics and priests like what do they get in terms of special privileges, what is the status of different social classes. All of that is stuff that you don't know, right? And in the old school companion, you get a ton of stuff on the aristocracy, on the clerical order, on medieval authentic activities, as well as more magical stuff, right? So to help you better to play the game in this very different nation, which was the actual Middle Ages. And likewise here, there's going to be sections that are trying to give you a big look at what life was like and what the culture and the tradition, the importance of your clan, and above everything, pretty much above the nation, and your caste. And then other stuff beyond that, in terms of how to behave, about, the role of women, about slavery, about gender. This is the first RPG to feature a transgender heroic character on the cover, which is something that never stopped pissing off the SJWs. So I'll ask you guys to do a little favor. If you buy Arrows of Indra, do a post somewhere on social media and say, hey guys, I bought Arrows of Indra, and check this out. In this game, by the RPG Pundit, has the first heroic transgender character on the cover of any RPG. Because of course that was a part of the third gender was a part of the culture there. And so there's some excellent hex maps of, as you can see, this is India, right? Northern India. That these were very kindly, and I'm pretty sure it's attributed here. Where was that? Yeah, by Rob Conley, who does the Majestic Wilderlands. He did all the maps, the interior maps. Where were we? There we go. So, and that first one was the big map, and then we've got close-up maps, and you can see they're really spectacular maps. And I had nothing to do with them, so I get to say how awesome they are. Then each area is given its breakdown, right? You have the southern lands, the other regions. But again, there's other differences. Just this image of the the Gandharvas reminds me that, for example, I didn't do in this that you can only play humans. In retrospect, I probably would have. Instead, I felt like, oh, well, I've got to have some kind of a elf, dwarf, and halfling substitute. So I had like the Gandharvas and the Indian dwarves. I can't even remember what they're called right now. But they're a race of short people that are short magical people, which is really funny because like the Gandharvas are very similar to elves in some ways, and these can't believe I'm getting old. It slipped my mind. Race. Where is that? Oh, I guess it's after cast. No. It's not the Rakshasas. Those are like the happy. Oh, there we go. The Yakshas. So it's interesting because they're similar but also very different. So like the Yakshas are basically like, they look sort of like dwarves with golden skin, but they're actually like really deep thinkers and scholars. But they're intensely passionate and tend to like sometimes go kind of insane when they get really worked up about something. So they're a very interesting variation, on what you would what you'd get from a standard D&D world. But I included them as a player character race, and I really shouldn't have. But I at the time I thought that was the right thing to do. If I did it again, I'd say no. The point of this is to play humans. You are humans, right? There'll be Gandharvas and Yakshas and Rakshasas and all that stuff, but you don't play that stuff. You play humans. Then there's like a whole section on the underworld, right? Because this is an established part of the cosmology of India, that there is an underworld called the Patala underworld, which is enormously large, has multiple levels. It's basically the world's first dungeon, right? Each level, I mean, you could say it's the Underdark, right? But it's actually both. It has like it's full of monsters and full of treasures, and people can go down into the underworld. You can even go if you get far enough, you make it all the way through the underworld, you end up in the hell realms, right? So it's the stuff of epic quests. And I made a bunch of tables, random tables for maneuvering your way through the underworld, which randomly generating sections of it, random encounters as well. So I think it's a really this part, for example, the generating of dungeons section and the monster section are incredibly applicable all over the place. And there's, road encounters, city encounters, lots of encounter tables. As usual with me, you're going to get a lot of encounter tables. And they're all going to be quite good, They're all going to give you what you need. It's a whole monster section with a large number of monsters that are directly from Indian myth, as well as, your standard animals, just so you don't have to go look them up somewhere else. But you get stuff like the Gana. Those are the servants of Lord Shiva, Garudas, the undead, which are they're very different from the typical undead. The Indian goblins, which live in the Patala underworld, of course. Kinnaras, the more of the living dead, living statues, Maruts, proper Nagas, like not the D&D Nagas, the Nagas the way they are in Indian mythology, Rakshasas, scorpions, lots of stuff. And then you've got magic items, which have new magic items. They're all done in the format kind of the treasure tables. Here's an example of where I talk about again the cultural value. Just like in Lion and Dragon, you're not going to have a nobleman trying to loot the body of a peasant he just killed, right? For very obvious reasons, or a knight or a priest, right? And here in the Indian culture, obviously, anyone who is of any caste other than the lowest class, the Dalits, would be horribly unclean if they touch a body that's been dead after a certain amount of time, So it's pretty crazy. But you've got all kinds of magic items, new types, sutras, mala beads, staffs and rings, which are normal, but you also have magic conch shells. And then at the very back, some wondrous items that are quite unique. Indian magic armor and shields. And magic bows. Now, magic bows and arrows are going to have the same level of attention that are normally reserved for magic swords. Why? Because the bow and arrow, archery, was considered to be the greatest example of warrior prowess, right? Not the sword. The sword actually came third. The most popular, the most important weapon of the warrior was the bow and arrow. The second most important, because they would fire them from chariots in war, right? And then the second was the spear, which was the weapon more of a somewhat more common soldier. And then the third was the sword, which was considered just kind of a brutish weapon. But so there's a whole section on doing more detailed types of magical bows and magical arrows. And then there's a section on celestial weapons, because, I mean, you might know, if you've studied a little bit of Indian myth, you might know that in the Indian myths, more so the older ones you get, the more ridiculous they become. They have weapons that are just like absolutely unbelievable levels of power, right? And you get a lot of that in the Mahabharata, because the Mahabharata is a story of a gigantic apocalyptic war that basically ends the previous civilization and leads to the beginning of the current one, right? And so I had to, I couldn't do Arrows of Indra without having a section where I give a list of the most common celestial arrows and other celestial weapons. And, so if you want to get some items that are like campaign-shatteringly powerful, then there you have it, right? Obviously, there's going to be an important section on the gods and on religion, on divine quests. You get details about all the basics, all the things you basically need to know about Indian religion, not so much as it is today, but as it was at the time of the Mahabharata, because Indian religion has evolved quite a lot, right? But you get information about all that. You get information about Krishna, who is a dude you could meet in the setting, because, of course, he's one of the characters of the Mahabharata. You get details about important religious rituals that happen at different times of the year, or sometimes only every few years. And then a section on higher level play, which gives you more stuff that you can do once you're, different activities you can engage in. And finally, just like in Dark Albion, I have a timeline, not of the past, but rather of the present and future. I did that here too, because I've always thought it's really stupid to have a history section of a chapter that's enormous and has like a 10,000 year by year timeline of everything that happened in your campaign up till now, instead of doing one of potential future events, right? Especially in a historical game, right? So here I presume a certain moment in the Mahabharata, relatively early, but not right at the beginning of the Mahabharata, which is where the campaign will start. And then I detail the central events that will change the world, so to say, over the course of that time. And of course, the player characters will be able to, interact with it in different ways and perhaps deal with them. So that is basically Arrows of Indra. And I would say, the game, I think, still holds up quite well over the, considering that it's almost a decade old now. Again, if I were doing an Arrows of Indra 2nd edition, it wouldn't end up looking like this. It would look different. There's no question about it. It would end up being much closer mechanically. The mechanical part would become much closer to Lion and Dragon. So I'd make a lot of changes there, simplify a lot of stuff. But all the setting stuff, all the random tables, all the magic items, all the monsters and the demon stuff and the timeline and the maps and the regional stuff, all of that is still just gold. It's still just fine as it is, and it's it holds up really, really well. And even the system, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just a little more complicated and a little less streamlined than what I personally have come to enjoy. But maybe some people think, well, the RPG Pundit system is not, it's a little too streamlined for my taste. I want some, complex, like where you can have multi-class characters and you can have characters that are, race class combinations and have to look up different powers in like 4 different sections every time I'm going up in level. if I'm using all the options. So like all that sort of stuff. If you like that, if you want a more complex game than Lion and Dragon, I guess Arrows of Indra would be it. Not that Lion and Dragon is super simplistic, nor that Arrows of Indra is incredibly complex. It's not Byzantine. Like you'll be able to play it, and you're not going to have a problem. But it's just a little more cluttered, I think, than Lion and Dragon is. And I guess that's all I have to say about it. Now, if you do pick it up, like I said, share, tell people about it on social media. Likewise, with any of my products, if you get them on drive-through, I would be really appreciative if you gave it a rating after you've read it, of course, right? And if you have time, if you care to give it a review, even if it's a short one, because that's a big help. Like my World of the Last Sun book the other day got a 1-star review that was a product of someone who was pissed off about my most recent live stream, and it had nothing to do with the book. And they even said so in the review. They said, "Oh, yeah, the book is wonderful, the art is really nice, but the RPG pundit is a big, terrible, meanie person," because he was saying that we need to study Alinsky's rules to use it against the left, and. Because of that, he gave it a 1-star, and I was very happy because after that, I got like 6 people, I think, that all jumped in, and to do a review there, you have to have bought it at drive-through, and they jumped in with their ratings or reviews of the product, all of them detailing what is good about it and how awesome it is, and of course they jumped the rating of the product right back up again. So thank you to all the guys who did a review there or who gave it a rating. And I encourage everybody else to do that with the products they buy on drive-through. And I know every other RPG author is always super, super grateful when he gets a well-intentioned review. It doesn't have to be a 5-star review if you don't think it's a 5-star product. But as long as it's an honest and well-intentioned review and a rating that sincerely reflects what you honestly think, and it's not about, trying to bomb me on purpose or trying to, or just putting in a review of a book you've never read, right? I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you to give honest reviews and fair reviews. And that's really something that people, that I would love. And I'm pretty sure I speak for every other author on our drive-through RPG that they would love it too. But anyways, that's about it. You can pick up Arrows of Indra on drive-through. You can also pick it up on Amazon, I believe. And I don't know if Bedrock has their own store still or what they're doing, but you can definitely get it both on Amazon and on drive-through in print. And if you want it on PDF, I think it's only drive-through. I'm not sure about that. I guess you'll have to look it up. I didn't do my research before I started this. So go check that out. And if you're not interested in Arrows of Indra, check out, if you rather like medieval stuff, check out the Old School Companion. If you like Gonzo stuff, check out World of the Last Sun. And if you can't afford bigger books, so I mean, a lot of these are quite affordable. I don't remember how much this costs exactly. I think it's $29.99. So there you go. So that's not super expensive for a book. And I think Lion and Dragon is even cheaper than that. But if you can't afford any of that right now, you could also check out my RPG Pundit Presents series. The link is in the description below, and I've got 103 so far PDFs. You can buy any one of them or all of them, or any mix and match that you like. They all range from like 99 cents to $4.99, and they're like on every imaginable OSR topic. Lots of stuff that's medieval authentic. That's stuff you can use in a Lion and Dragon type campaign or in any other OSR campaign that you want to have medieval stuff. Like the stuff in the Old School Companion is fully OSR compatible, just like all my stuff is. And if not, there's like weird fantasy. There's a lot of adventures that you can use with any system. You'll find something you're bound to like there. Rules, random table generators, whatever, right? There's all kinds of things. And if you want to support me, you want to encourage me to do more videos and to keep doing my products, then pick up one of the RPG Pundit Presents issues, one or more, the ones that you like, and then you're going to get something useful for yourself. Some people support me on Patreon. I have a Patreon link. It's going to be in the description below, or on PayPal. They just literally send money to me. But and that's fine. I'm very grateful. I really am. I got a couple of new Patreon people this past week for some reason, and I'm really, really happy and really grateful to the people that support me on Patreon, because it must mean that you really want me to keep going forward, and that you're willing to put money down for me to keep fighting the good fight, as it were. And so I will, I appreciate it sincerely. But I also think if you want to get something for yourself, the RPG Pen and Present series is a great way to do it. And it's a great way to support me while you're benefiting, because there's nothing better to do than to buy RPG products from someone who doesn't despise you or, your culture or your civilization, or, that wouldn't like to see you and everyone and everything you care about harmed, right? So don't buy stuff from people that want to harm you. Do buy stuff that people that don't hate you and just want to make good games, right? I guess that's about it. We'll see you maybe later in the week, and if not, on Sunday in Inappropriate Characters. Currently smoking Italian Red Bark plus Argento Latacchia.